All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is part 4 of our continuing coverage of factoring trinomials. You can go back and look at the previous videos where we talk about what factoring is, what trinomials as opposed to binomials and monomials. But in this section, we are going to factor trinomials for what and why. The reason is you want to be able to solve equations. So we're going to set these trinomials equal to 0 and be able to solve them because that's where you're trying to go. Let's get started. So our first problem is b squared plus 20b plus 36. And as you know before, there's usually two binomials multiplied by each other to get a trinomial. So we know starting off when using the FOIL method, in order to get our b squared, we're going to have b times b. So we're looking at the number 36 and we're looking at the number 20. So in order to solve this problem, as we've stated before in previous lessons, you want to find out what two numbers that you multiply to get 36, but when you add them, you get 20. So you could have 6 times 6, you have 36 times 1. You could also have, let's say, 18 times 2. So it looks like our answer is going to be 18 and 2. 2 times 18 gives you 36. 18 times 18 plus 2 gives you 20. So we have b plus 18, b plus 2. Remember, these are set to 0. So we have b plus 18 equals 0. And we have b plus 2 equals 0. We're going to solve for b and then plug that back into the original equation to find out what our true values are. So we're going to minus 18 on both sides for this equation. So we have b equals negative 18. Over here, we're going to minus 2 on both sides. That gives us b equals negative 2. So we're going to plug these back in to make sure that they're part of the true set. So let's go with negative 18 first. So we have negative 18 squared plus 20 times negative 18 plus 36 equals 0. Okay, so we have negative 18 squared. That's negative 18 times negative 18. That will give us a positive 324 plus a minus 20 times 18. That gives us a minus 360 plus 36 equals 0. So if we were to subtract 360 from 324, or we could say 360 minus 324, that leaves us with 6, 5, 36. So that would be negative 36 plus 36 equals 0. So 0 equals 0. So negative 18 works. Now let's look at negative 2. So we would have negative 2 squared plus a 20 times negative 2 plus 36 equals 0. Negative 2 squared is 4. That's negative 2 times negative 2. 20 times the negative 2 is minus 40 plus 36 equals 0. 4 minus 40 gives us negative 36. Then we have a plus 36 equals 0. So we have 0 equals 0. So it looks like our solution set is negative 18, negative 2. All right, makes sense? Let's move on to the next problem. Okay, our next problem is y squared plus 4y minus 12 equals 0. So we're going to have our two parentheses. We know we're going to have y and y. We're looking at negative 12 and 4. What two numbers multiplied will give you negative 12, but when you add them, will give you 4? We could have minus 12 and 1. Could have 4, negative 3, or negative 3 and 4. What else? 6, negative 2. 6 times negative 2 is negative 12. 6 minus 2 is 4. So we have y plus 6, y minus 2. Again, another way to check these, which I mentioned in previous lessons, is we could use the FOIL method. So we just want to check to make sure we did this the correct way. The FOIL method for multiplying binomials is first, outside, inside, and last. Our first variables are y times y. That gives us y squared. The outside is y times negative 2, negative 2y. The inside, 6 and y, that's plus 6y, because 6 times y is 6y. And then the last two numbers, 6 times negative 2 is negative 12. So when we combine like terms, we have y squared. 6y minus 2y is 4y minus 12. So we're back to our original problem. That lets us know that our factors are correct. So we have y plus 6 equals 0, and we have y minus 2 equals 0. When I solve for y, I'm going to minus 6 on both sides. That gives me y equals negative 6. When I solve for y on this side, add 2 to both sides. That gives me y equals 2. Let's check both numbers by placing them back into the original equation to see if they are part of the set. So we'll start with negative 6. So we would have negative 6 squared plus 4 times the negative 6 minus 12 equals 0. 6 squared or minus 6 squared is 6 times 6, or negative 6 times a negative 6 still gives you a positive 36. 4 times a minus 6 is minus 24. Minus 12 equals 0. 36 minus 24 gives you 8. 8 minus 12 equals 0. 8 minus 12 is a negative 4. That does not equal 0. So we're not going to use negative 6. So let's plug in 2. So we have 2 squared plus 4 times 2 minus 12 equals 0. 2 squared is 4. 2 times 2 plus 8 minus 12 equals 0. 4 plus 8 is 12. So we're left with 12 minus 12. That's 0 equals 0. So here's our answer. Make sense? Let's move to the last problem. Okay, our last problem is d squared plus 2d minus 8 equals 0. We're looking at the numbers minus 8 and 2. What two numbers multiplied will give us minus 8, but when you add them, will give you 2. We could have minus 8 and 1. We could have 4 and negative 2. That looks like our answer. 4 times negative 2 is a negative 8, but 4 minus 2 is 2. So we have d plus 4 and d minus 2. So remember, this is set equal to 0. So to make sure that we get our original equation, we could go back to the FOIL method and multiply these out. So first, we'd have d squared, d times d. Outside is d times negative 2, which is negative 2d. Inside is 4 times d, which is 4d. Last, 4 times negative 2, which is negative 8. We would have d squared, combining like terms, 4d minus 2d gives 2d, and then minus 8. So we know that our factors are correct. So we have d plus 4 equals 0 and d minus 2 equals 0. So when we solve for d, we're going to minus 4 on both sides for this. So we have d equals negative 4. D minus 2 equals 0. We're going to add 2 to both sides. That's d equals 2. So let's plug in our numbers to find out if one of the solution sets work or both. So let's start off with negative 4. So we're going to plug that back into the original equation. We have minus 4 squared plus 2 times the minus 4 minus 8 equals 0. Minus 4 squared is negative 4 times negative 4. That gives us 16. 2 times minus 4 is minus 8. Minus 8 equals 0. 16 minus 8 is 8. 8 minus 8 equals 0. So we have 0 equals 0. Looks like this one works. So let's try our 2. So we have 2 squared plus 2d minus, our d is going to be a 2, minus 8 equals 0. 2 squared is 4. 2 times 2 is 4, minus 8 equals 0. So we have 4 plus 4 is 8, minus 8 equals 0. 0 equals 0. So it looks like our solution set is negative 4, 2. So I hope this helps. If this helped you, send it to someone else. Like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video.